Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Women of Golf. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and joining right alongside here each and every week, of course, is none other than Legends Tour player and LPGA professional, Cindy Miller. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning, Ted.
How are you doing?
Great. Happy fall.
Happy, yes, exactly. I was just telling Cindy off air, I was asking her, of course, Cindy is up in the Buffalo, New York area, and of course I'm down here in Florida, but up in the northwest part of Florida. And I was just asking her how the weather was up there, and she said it's going to be, 60, you said?
Yeah.
In around there. That's not
we
too
can
bad.
Lay out in the sun today.
Yeah. No snow yet. But we're actually experiencing a little cold front. We're actually getting some wind from the northeast, so we're getting that cool weather that you would normally be getting about now. But anyways, glad you could join us, and let me just remind everybody, of course, we are live Tuesday mornings, from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on blogtalkradio.com. And just best way to find us is go to blogtalkradio.com. Up in the search key, type Women of Golf, and that'll bring you to the main page. And, of course, on Tuesday mornings, the show is always at the top of the page, and you can tune in live there. And for some reason, if you're not able to join us, that's not a problem. Still go to the page, blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf. And just scroll down through the page, and you'll see the on-demand section. And as I've previously mentioned before many times, all of the programs, even though they are live on Tuesday, are auto-recorded. So if you can't join us live, not to worry. You can go and listen to them at your convenience by visiting the link at a later point. Also, if you go to iTunes.com, under the podcast section and type in Women of Golf, you can also get us there as well. Anytime during the live broadcast, if you want to speak with Cindy or I or any of the guests, you're always encouraged and welcome to call in, and you can do so by calling area code 347-945-5855. Also, you can email any questions or comments about the program to womenofgolf@gmail.com. And if you're somebody in the golf profession, whether you're a teacher or a coach or maybe somebody in the business side of golf, and you want to come on the show, please reach out to Cindy at cindymillergolf.com. And also make sure that you visit her website when you get a chance. Lots of great information there. Go to cindymillergolf.com. And if you want to touch base with me or say hello, you can also do that through my email at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. And as I've mentioned last week, if you go Thursday nights to blogtalkradio.com and go under Golf Talk Live, I do my program there Thursday nights from 6 to 8 Central Time. But we're glad you joined us this morning. We got a great guest coming up here. She's actually been on the program before, Palacios-Jansen. She's an LPGA teaching professional and was the 2008 LPGA National Teacher of the Year. And she's just recently, been nominated, or not nominated, I guess she won, VP of the LPGA Teaching and Club Professionals for 2016 and through to 2018. So a lot of exciting things happen in women's golf.
Yes, lots of
and
things.
When we're going to talk to her about that. But Cindy, I thought while we're waiting, she's going to be joining us here in about 20 or so minutes, and we'll talk to her about how she's going to be coping with all that. She's much like you, very busy with all kinds of things, teaching and different programs that she's involved with. And now she's adding one more to her hat, working as VP along Deb Vangelo as the new president, who was currently the vice president of the teachers and club professionals. So lots of hard work. I don't know, how do you imagine she's going to be able to juggle that?
It's just time management. You know,
yeah.
She's not going to be president. She's going to be vice president. And, you know, if you're organized and you know where you're going and you've got a great team behind you, it's not going to be that bad.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, and you do it so well. I mean, you've got so many things. You're, quite often, Cindy, you're flying from here to there to do different corporate events and different other obligations and that, and you obviously manage to squeeze that in. And it is, you're right, it's time management. You just have to be a good organizer, and you just have to be willing sometimes to say no to certain things in order to accommodate others. So I guess it's just a matter of juggling your schedule. I'm sure she's going to do it very, very well. She's got a lot of things that she's been doing over the years and has managed to manage them very well. Cindy, I thought it would be kind of interesting this morning. I've had a few questions over the last couple of years that have been posed through one way or another, and I thought it'd be kind of interesting for you and I just to sort of talk a little bit about it. And one of the questions that was actually posed on my other show, Golf Talk Live, during a session that we call Coach's Corner, and that's where a number of teaching professionals get together and have a panel discussion. And John Hughes, who is a master teaching professional from the Orlando, Florida area, actually posed this question to the panel one night, and this was kind of an interesting. He said, if you were on the course or at the facility and a student or a club professional, club patron, if you will, came up to you and said, look, I've got an event either later in the day or early next week. I don't have a lot of time. I've only got about 5 minutes here. I'm really busy. Can you help me get prepared for that event? How would you handle that? What would you do, and what would you say to that individual?
Well, the first thing I would say is, well, what do we need to fix? You're looking for a miracle in 5 minutes.
Right.
I would probably, depending on their personality, because typically that person is a control freak and they're speeding and they're freaking out and having a panic attack, and I would just say, you know what, just think about your tempo.
Yeah.
Be real general. What would you do?
Well, here's what I would say. There's really 5 things that really I would probably do. You're right. When you only have 5 minutes, even if you had 10 minutes, it's not really enough. And the first thing I would definitely do is I would say to them, you have to work with what you brought today. So let's say the event was that same day. If they have been out on the range and they've hit a few balls, they kind of get a sense of where their game is that day. If they're not hitting the ball well with their driver, but maybe their irons are a little better, or their putting is decent, they have to work with what they bring to the course that day. Certainly not want to implement any big changes. But what I would do is this. I'm like you. I think what I would do is, number one, first thing I would do is I would help them sort of formulate a strategy for their play. And I would do that, number one, by getting them to focus on as little as possible. And that would be first thing that I would get them to focus on is like your timing and or rhythm. I think if you can focus on your rhythm and just sort of smooth, easy swings, not trying to muscle the ball, a lot of times things will fall into place. I would also say, what area is your strongest part of your game? If your short game, whether it be putting or chipping or pitching, then you play to your strengths. That's what I would advise them. I'd say play to your strengths. So if you're not hitting the ball well with your driver, leave the driver in the bag. Pull out one of your either your hybrid clubs or even a fairway wood, maybe like a 5 wood if you've got one in the bag, and that's what I would use to tee off on, even on your par 5s. Better to be in the fairway and playing it safe than be, looking for balls in the woods left and right and getting into some thick rough. So that would be probably the number one thing that I would do. And as I said, number 2 would be to work with what you have taken to the course that day. I would not implement any big changes. And then I also would say number 3 would be realistic in your expectations. I think a lot of people go with very high expectations in some cases. And I think if you're coming to the course that day and maybe you're not playing very well, or there's certain parts of your game that are not as tight as you'd like them to be, then you know what you have to work with. So work around that if you can, as best as your ability. Number 4, and certainly there's no particular order that I would do these, is I would encourage them to have fun. Go out there and enjoy it. If you're not going out there and having fun and enjoying the day, forget about how good or bad you're playing. Put that aside. Do the best that you can. But I would probably say that should be number one, is to have fun. And then what I would do at the end of that lesson is I would invite them back after the event, not necessarily immediately after, but a short time after, to work on things that they found within that event that were difficult. Again, whether it be driving or maybe parts of their short game that weren't very good. And I would invite them back for a longer session that we can work on some of those areas. And that's probably what I would do if I only had 5 minutes with them.
I'm going to be mean. You just went over 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I didn't say it was going to take me 5 minutes to explain it all, but yeah, I'm sure I did. But I mean, obviously, this is just for the purpose of the program. Yeah. Here's the thing, Cindy, and this is really the truth of it, and we've all been faced with it, that those of us that are in the teaching end of it, again, we both work a lot with corporate people, and a lot of times they'll come to us with very unrealistic requests, and you have to work as best you can under the circumstances. But every once in a while, you will get somebody like that where they will say, I've only got a short period of time. I can't afford to, spend a half an hour or an hour in a lesson. What can you do? There's no point as a teaching professional trying to fix a slice or a hook or any specific thing like that in a short period of time, because that's going to involve some big changes more than likely, and then all you're going to do is create a situation where they're going to have a lousy time at that event, because now you've kind of muddled everything up. What are some of the things that?
Well, and then it's going to be your fault then, and you will have gotten into their head, and they will blame you, and they will never come to a lesson. So I wouldn't even go that far. I would just say, think of pace.
Yep.
I would probably ask him, if you had to go someplace you've never been before and you can't use GPS or your phone, would you want me to tell you how to get there? Would you want to read written directions, or would you want to look at a map? And once I find out whether they're audio, visual, or kinesthetic, I would give them a very, very one thing to think about on every swing. And it would be the same thing all day long, just to simplify, because otherwise they're crazy.
Yeah, and a lot of students, and we've all heard this before, probably 1,000 times at least. A lot of times we'll have very unrealistic expectations. Even in full lessons, a lot of times they want everything now. This is unfortunately, I think, a byproduct of technology, because there's so much information floating out there. And Cindy, I'm sure you've seen much of it as well. You just go on the internet and type in golf, and about 30 million pages are at your disposal, and that's on a good day. And there's just so much information, a lot of it good information, but there's other information as well that's being put out there that maybe sometimes isn't always the best, and it's unrealistic. And I think sometimes students come to the course expecting miracles in a very short period of time, and it's a process. If you're looking to make changes, here's what I would equate this to, and this is something that on this past Thursday night, we talked about. I had professional golf instructor Barry Goldstein was on my program, and we talked about how a lot of students will come with those expectations, and they're just not realistic, and they expect it to happen overnight, and they're not willing to put in the time and the effort and the hard work to make those changes. We can give them quick swing fixes that will maybe get them through a short period of time, but it's not going to last if they're not willing to put the time and the effort in. And this is really where you have to be willing, as a student, you have to be willing to make a reasonable commitment. If you're somebody that's maybe a 25-plus handicapper and you're looking to get down to a 10 or better, that's not going to happen very seldomly anyways in one quick golf lesson. It's going to take a process. It's not necessarily going to take years, but it's going to take a reasonable period of time. And you have to be willing to make that a commitment with your instructor, but you also have to be willing to make that commitment on your own and get out and practice the things that you're being taught. Because, Cindy, as I'm sure you'll attest to, there's no point in somebody coming to you and saying, okay, Cindy, I want you to help me with this, and you go through all of the loops and the curves and the turns and all this sort of thing, and then they never go out and implement what you've taught them, and then they come back, in a couple of weeks for the next lesson, and it's like starting at ground zero again, correct?
Absolutely. That's for sure. Again, the student that you're speaking about right now, I would say, is someone who's played a bit. And,
sure.
The new student doesn't even know that they don't know. The person who's played for a while has recognized the pain, and they know how hard it is. So, again, you have to stop and say, in this crazy, busy, fast-paced world, how much time do people want to invest in getting better, and how bad does it have to hurt before they're willing to do that? And not everyone's willing to get that much better. So it all depends on what they're looking for. Do you just want to get it straight in the air? I can give you a simple solution, but you may not want to hear it.
Yeah. What do you do, Cindy, in your case, what do you do in situations where, you've got somebody, you've been working with them? How much time do you encourage them to take outside and away from you after let's say, you've given them a lesson this morning, or you've worked with them this morning in some capacity, and now it's time, maybe it might be a week or two, depending on the circumstances, or in some cases it might even be longer, before they're going to come back and revisit. What do you set them up for to do when they're away from you? What do you try to encourage? And it's not always going to happen this way, but what do you try to encourage them to do away from you?
Well, again, you have to make the plan with them. How much are they willing to invest themselves? If somebody comes in for a half-hour lesson once a week, that might be all they get to do. So it almost might be a supervised practice session with you while they're taking a lesson. And that's why I suggest they sign up for a package. We call it the Game Improvement Package. It includes 3 private lessons and 4 one-hour group sessions. And depending on their urgency to improve, we'll determine how fast they complete the package. They get a year to do it, but they may do it in 6 weeks.
Right.
Others, I've got, 3 years later, call me, I've got like 2 lessons left, Well, they're not committed. Well, I got news for you. If you're only going to work with committed people, you're not going to get very many lessons.
No, that's true.
Because most people are not. Golf is not their life. They have family, they have children sometimes, they have jobs, they have other responsibilities. So, again, we're talking about the smallest minority of the population that really wants to work at it.
Right.
I've got a 7-year-old, okay, now this is amazing. I don't think I told you this. She plays in the U.S. Kids Golf Tournament. She comes in twice a week, maybe 3 times. Now, that's not her doing. It's her parents, right?
Right.
She shot 30 for 9 holes in the last U.S. Kids Golf Tournament.
Wow.
30. 6 under par.
Jeez.
And she was mad because she made a bogey. Now, there's proof that U.S. Kids philosophy is paying off, because her lowest score up until that point was 36. She hadn't broken par. She goes, I really want to break par. I said, well, you can do it. I know you can do it. And they sent me a copy of the scorecard. My mouth hung open.
Wow.
And she was totally ticked off because she made a bogey. And it's a record for U.S. Kids Golf. Now, her belief system is, I should break par. I can reach par 5s and 2 because they play it short enough that they can get to the hole. Well, most people's belief system isn't that way.
Right.
You know that. Now,
exactly.
She comes in twice a week, and I've got another guy who started as an 8 handicap. He comes in once a week for an hour religiously, and he's now a 4. And that's been for 2 months. But those are the only 2 that I've got. Now, I've got girls and boys that say they want to play college golf that I have not seen for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then they come and say, well, I need you to help me get to college. Well, where have you been?
Yeah.
I've got a young girl whose dad wants me to make a plan of who to talk to. I said, no offense, but she's got to hit the ball better. None of this matters until she can hit the ball better and score. So I don't know that they know what they need to work on. And so I would hope that people, listening, if you are, and you really want to get better, find an instructor that's qualified that can really assess where you are and what your goals are and help you make a plan to achieve them.
Yeah, and this is one of the things, we've talked about this before, Cindy, I think a little while back, but, we've talked about, especially for some of these youngsters that have, a vision of going to playing college golf and things like that. It takes a commitment, and a lot of times the parents are the ones more often not that are the unrealistic ones and not the student. The student, maybe has an interest and certainly would like to, and but the parents a lot of times will push them into things that maybe they're not really either ready for or maybe not as interested in, but they'll go along with it because they, certainly don't want to disappoint, mom and dad. But, this is where as a teacher, coach, what have you, that you really have to, this is where the assessment is extremely important, because a lot of times students might come, their parents would love for them to play Division I. They want to get them into some great program, but the kid maybe just doesn't really, or at least at this stage, isn't really talented enough, and there's a lot of work involved, but they don't realize that. They don't put two and two together how much work's involved. And more often than not, the kid just doesn't want to, they kind of get a sense that, hey, this is more than what I'm really prepared for. How do you handle something like that, where the parents are kind of...
Well, you know what? It's funny. I had a little talk the other night with one of our juniors in high school. And she is one of my underdogs, but she's been on again, off again. Haven't seen her. She text messaged me when she broke the school record for 9 holes, shot 33. She was all proud of herself. I said, great job. I'm very proud of you. And so she came in for a lesson a couple Saturdays ago, real early, and I go, so why are you here? She goes, I don't know. I go, well, are you going to play college golf? Well, I don't know. I said, well, until you know why you're here, I got nothing for you. There's no reason for you to waste your time and your parents' money for you to be here. Well, I don't know, and I really want to be, I want to major in business, and I want to go to a really good school, and I want to go to a school with a football team, and I want to do this. And I said, well, have you worked on your game? Well, I've been practicing all summer. I go, but you haven't been here working on it. And if you're practicing as hard as you say you are, you should be breaking 80 every time you play. So clearly something's missing. So then her dad comes in and says, I don't know, she's all upset. And I said, okay, so let's have a meeting. So I told her my story, and I don't want to bore you, but I said, when I went to the University of Miami as a walk-on, my father told me that if I didn't get a scholarship my next year, I couldn't go back. I went to the University of Miami because I wanted to play on the LPGA Tour, and I knew that was the pathway for me to get my goal, if you will. Mm-hmm. I said, I burned the boats when I left Buffalo. So I said, you're not sure you want to get in the boat. So then her parents said, well, she can only go 3 hours away. Long story short, after we had this long talk, I said, look, it's okay to be scared. I said, but you got to put the pedal to the metal. And I got news for you. If you really work on your game, you may not get your goal, but you're still going to be better than you were. So do you want to just hang out or do you want to work on it? So now we've written to schools. I reached out. I said, I am access for you. You have no idea who I know. I might look like an old lady who doesn't know how to play anymore, but let me tell you something. So, anyway, I don't think they know, and I think some of them are so, they get handed everything. They go to these private schools that are $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year, and they've never had to work for anything. And golf is a game that your clubs have to do the talking. Don't tell me how good you are. Would you shoot?
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of it too, Cindy, is I think a lot of kids, because they are unsure, and everybody has a certain point where maybe they lack a little bit of confidence in things, and that's something that you have to work on. Nobody can hand that to you. And I think a lot of times these kids, and it kind of sounds to me like she was looking for somebody to make the decision for her. She wants this and wants that, but has no idea where to go or what to do. she's, as you said, maybe got parents sort of pushing her, wanting to go to a first-rate school, but she's kind of wavering on, well, I don't know, and a lot of kids are like that, and they want somebody else to make the decision. But the problem is, if you make that decision, or even if the parents make that decision for them, if it's not really what they want, they're not going to be committed to it. And
absolutely.
Barry made something, and I don't know if you recall, or I'm sure you've probably seen, because he's quite a bit on social media, particularly Facebook. But his daughter, Carly Rae Goldstein, is currently playing at LSU, and of course she plays on the women's golf team. She was the one I told you about. She's been on my other show a couple of times. I'd like to get her on here as well. I think she'd be very interesting to talk to. But I know she is. But she is in her third year now. But she has won. Before she went to LSU a couple of years back in 2013, she was just turning 18, and she had won, I think, 2 weeks out from going to college. She had won her 100th event, both nationally and internationally. She's ranked, I believe he said last week, she's ranked number 4 in the country as a junior.
Cool.
And yeah,
awesome.
She's very unbelievable. She's actually had they met up one time at course. He works out of Inverary Country Club in Fort Lauderdale, and he was telling last week the story about Jack Nicklaus came up and gave her a short lesson and was extremely impressed. In fact, they've kind of kept in touch over the last couple of years. But anyways, but what Barry was saying, that what he did, now he's had her playing since she was knee high to a grasshopper, but he let her come to him. He never pushed it. He didn't say, come on, and dragged her. It was always under her initiative. And that's really what it has to be. The kid has to be the one that wants to really grapple onto this game. And if it's the parents, as much as I know you love your children and you want to see them do well, if it's you that's sort of driving the wheel of the bus, and the kid's not really sort of just going along for the ride, more often than not, you're not going to reach the goal that you're hoping for. And if you do, it's not going to be very long lasting, because more often than not, the kid's going to get bored or is going to phase out after a period of time, because it's not really on their own initiative. So this is something that parents have to be honest with themselves about, I think. And this is where talking with somebody like you, Cindy, beforehand, before making committing their kids to a program, really saying, okay, is this the kid that wants this, or is this you that wants this?
It all starts. You need to get the kids into a junior program where they have
sure.
fun, and that's where it starts.
Right.
I want to go to golf today, rather than, oh boy, I hate golf. And so if you can start a program which is what US Kids does, and TPI and First Tee, and it teaches you the character traits of great champions and stuff, and life skills. You got to start with having fun, and then again, the cream is going to rise to the top.
Sure.
And very few, just like how many people are going to practice 3 times a week.
Yeah.
That's not the majority. The minority is just, I just want to fix me today, right now, and then I'll talk to you later. And that's just the way the world works. Very few people, how many people are on the tour? Not
right.
many.
No, not when you look at the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
No, of course not.
So once you realize that, then it makes it much easier. But if you start all the kids in a fun golf program, then they can also be motivated by themselves, as you say, to want to improve.
Yeah, they do have to be. They have to be self-motivated, and it works with really anybody, not just the students. And US Kids Golf, of course, has a great program, as you said, and we want to try to get them exposed to it at an early age, and then sort of let nature take its course. And if they decide that, hey, this is something for them, then they're going to be more apt to want to pursue it, as opposed to much like, and I equate this because this was always a common one, but, a kid being drugged to the piano lesson. If the kid doesn't really want to, learn to play the piano, but mom and dad think it's going to be culturally good for them, and it's going to, impress the friends when they come over for dinner parties, because little Susie over here can play a myriad of Mozart or something, the kid's just not going to absorb to it. But speaking of some good golf and some great things, I see Karen is waiting here for us. So let me do a quick introduction, Cindy, and then we'll bring Karen onto the program. As I mentioned earlier, our special guest today is Karen Palacios-Jansen. She's an LPGA teacher professional. She was actually the 2008 LPGA National Teacher of the Year, and she's been voted one of America's top 50 best women teachers by Golf Digest magazine since actually 1998. She has her own golf events company, Swing Blade Enterprises, in Mooresville, North Carolina, and served as managing editor for Golf Fitness magazine. Jansen is a Nike Golf and Czech Institute performance specialist, as well as an AFAA certified personal trainer. She developed golf-specific fitness called Cardio Golf, which she runs very well, and she's also a member of the Nike Golf Advisory Staff, for which she participates in Nike product development and promotions. So without any further hesitation, Cindy, let's welcome Karen Palacios-Jansen.
Good morning, Karen.
Thanks for having me on the show. I'm very excited to talk to you guys.
Well, we're so excited to have you. Congratulations on the election. We're so glad you and Deb Vangelo won.
Thank you very much. We've been running for about 3 or 4 months, so it was quite an election. There were 3 teams, so I knew it was going to be a close race. And what was really great about this election, Cindy, is I think really a lot of the members got involved, and it was really at the forefront and in people's minds, because they really are excited about the LPGA and elevating our membership.
Yes, we are.
Yes, congratulations, Karen. Well-deserved win, and I know that Deb was actually is the current VP, and she's now going to be stepping up to the president's position next year. But let me ask you, I was reading something while I was getting ready while we were getting ready for the show this morning, and initially there was a little bit of hesitation on your part. You weren't sure whether you wanted to take on that additional responsibility into all the thousands of different things that you do each and every day. What was sort of the deciding factor? What helped change your mind?
Well, really, Deb Vangelo. She's worked so hard for the LPGA. Like you said, she's the vice president right now, and she really. Karen, if you really want to help the membership, if you really want to help your career, if you really want to help women's golf, it's time you step up and get into a position. And so, I did some soul searching, and I thought, this is probably the right thing to do. I really have gotten a lot out of the LPGA membership. The LPGA has kind of groomed me, really educated me, and helped me get to where I am. So I think it's time that I step up. I've been a member for 20 years and give back a little bit to the membership. So that's what really, turned the corner for me.
Donow, does it? Now, as you just mentioned, you've been with them for 20 years. Does it seem that long, or does it just sort of seem to have just flown right by? 20 years has just flown right by.
I know. I don't know what happened with 20 years, but it just flew right by. I remember. Taking my Class B, and then all of a sudden now I'm like an old lady. So don't ask me what happened. It's been great.
I feel.
No, enough of that talk, Karen. That's not true at all for either one of you. Let me ask you this as well, and I was sort of alluding to this before we brought you on. You obviously have a pretty full schedule as it stands right now. You do a lot of things. You got cardio golf and a lot of other things that you're doing, teaching and so forth. And I know it's somewhat of a balancing act. Is this going to be a tough adjustment and to be able to fit this in, or is this just a matter of sort of reworking the schedule and saying, okay, I know I've got to commit this and I've got to commit that. How are you going to sort of put that all together?
Yes, well, I'm hoping that a lot of the experience and a lot of the things that I've already done, I can take to that role. So, you're right. It's going to be a lot of scheduling and getting things put in, but it's time for me to do this. So I'm happy to be busy. I actually like to be busy. Maybe not as busy as Cindy Miller, but I'll figure out a way to do it. But for sure.
Now, Cindy, as you mentioned, Cindy is a phenomenal worker. She does all kinds. She's always, every time we talk on the program or outside of, she's either just coming back from somewhere or going somewhere. So it's a busy schedule, and there's a lot. You've seen a lot of things in your 20 years, Karen, with through the LPGA and that. What are some things that have already been done that you guys would like to, both you and Deb would like to expand on? I'm sure you guys have had some discussions already, kind of what a vision is going to be, because you take over in 2016, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I don't think a lot of people know a lot about the LPGA. A lot of people do, people that are in the golf business do, but a lot of people outside the LPGA don't. So I think we're really going to try to elevate our standing in the golf community. And the LPGA recently has done a great job. I don't know if you've noticed, we have PSAs on TV about teachers. They started this girls golf club, and it's been a tremendous success. It's called the LPGA Girls Golf Club, and it's sort of our equivalent to the First Tee just for girls, not to exclude boys, but we happen to be women, and we want to elevate the girls. And so we want to continue working with that, and like I said, just try to elevate our standing in the community. What I'm not sure a lot of people know is that, there's an LPGA teacher. We go through all the same training as a PGA professional does. So we just happen to be women. We just happen to be part of the LPGA. So, but particularly with the LPGA, they spend a lot more time training us in education for instruction. And so I think that's the key for us, is to really showcase ourselves as teachers. We're as good a teacher as anyone out there. And just because we're LPGA and not PGA doesn't mean that we're on a different level. We're on the same level. We're just in a different organization. And a lot of the LPGA teachers are also PGA pros at the same time.
Right. Well, and really the only difference is you happen to have an L in front of the PGA as opposed to not. So that's really the only difference. That obviously stands for ladies, which all of you are. And you're right. Kudos to the LPGA. They've done a phenomenal job here. And I remember, Karen, when you were on the first time on the program, you had mentioned something that you were very excited about that the LPGA was doing was actually, if I remember correctly, and quote me if I'm wrong, but that they were implementing or getting ready to implement a newer program that was going to be geared towards helping the teachers teach towards or teach women. And one of the things that they were, and I'm going to let you expand a little bit more here in a second, but that obviously there is a difference between how you would teach a man and obviously how women should be taught. Talk a little bit about that program if you can, if what you're familiar with it, and how is it going so far?
Well, it's great. So we call it the Teaching Her Certification Program. And what we're trying to do, we are just trying to make all professionals, men and women, aware of the differences between teaching men and women. And, a lot of it is similar, but a lot of it is different too. And it's not because it's bad that, men and women are different. It's just a fact of life. Women are different. We think different. We're wired differently, and that's a good thing than men. So sometimes you have to approach that person a little bit differently. Cindy and I do that naturally because we're women and we know how to approach a woman. A man might not be as familiar with how to do that. So we're just trying to make everyone aware of how to do it. A lot of the research for the past 50 years in golf has been specifically on men. Studying Ben Hogan, Nick Faldo, all those swings. Well, if you put a woman up next to a Ben Hogan or a Nick Faldo, obviously there are physical differences. You cannot teach a woman the exact same thing as a man. So, we just developed this whole program to kind of go through a way to make people aware that there's a difference and maybe approach the lesson a little bit differently. I speak to countless women, and it's not any fault of the PGA Pro, but, she maybe had a bad lesson because he stood there and he demonstrated how to hit a driver. Well, in her life, she's never going to be able to, imitate that. And so she thinks she's a failure because her drive only goes 120 yards. And, his goes 320 yards. So one of the things is, I don't think men should be demonstrating how to hit a driver to a women's clinic because that's not even the same game that a woman's going to be playing. So, there's just little different things like that. And also for women to be aware that, men are different. So when you go take a lesson from a man, he's going to be Mr. Fix-It kind of guy. Whereas you might want to go in and, have a little conversation and get to know him a little bit about his family. Well, he's on a tight schedule. He's 30 minutes. He wants to get your lesson done. Meanwhile, you want to chat, about his daughter in second grade. Well, if you want to do that, maybe you should go to another pro that has more your personality. So, little things like that make a huge difference for a woman to leave the lesson saying, hey, I got a lot out of that.
Right, exactly. Cindy?
Well, I think it's what you're talking about is finding the right fit to teach you. It should be customer-based and student-based, and the student needs to be aware that not all teachers fit with each other, and with you. So find someone that will communicate with you and to you the way you want to be communicated to. So you really should almost interview instructors.
Yeah, that's a great point, Cindy. You're going to be spending a lot of time with a person. You're going to be giving this person a lot of your money. So, don't just go to the first one. It might take you 2 or 3 to find a pro that fits you, and that's fine. So we just don't want a woman to take one lesson and, have a bad experience and say, oh, it's over, I'm not going to learn how to play golf. So we're just trying to keep people aware that
there's so many bad instructors out there.
Yeah. Well, and I think, it depends on really what the instructor's focusing on. I think if they're focusing on themselves and making a name for themselves, I think sometimes, and there are, and let's be honest, there are, especially some of the younger ones that are coming out there, they're wanting to work with top players, so they're kind of pushing that, and they're really not paying attention. And Cindy, you raised an interesting point earlier in the program. It's a very small percentage of people that are going to make, that lifelong commitment to getting out there and really grinding and working hard on their game, maybe because they want to play, in college and eventually move on to one of the tours. And then there's the rest of the folks out there that just want to maybe be able to hit a little bit better in that. So, I think that we have to, in our initial assessments, I think they have to be, you have to get into more information. And I think, Karen, and I'd like you to expand a little bit on this, women have different interests in golf than what men do. Men want to, maybe hit the drive better so they can impress their buddies, or maybe they want to play better in their corporate event. Women still, in many ways, and I'm not talking about at the professional level, but obviously at an amateur level, are still fairly new, in playing golf and business and things like that. So there's a little bit of apprehension. There's a little bit of nervousness. So what are some of the differences that you've seen in some of the, working with both men and women and their approach to the game?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And, there are a lot of differences how women approach the game than men, but there are a lot of similarities. I mean, a woman just wants to hit the ball better, just like a guy does. So, that's really what you have to focus in on. And you really need to approach a woman or a man and find out what they want to work on. Is it that they want to hit it better, or do they just want to know a little bit more about the game so that they can keep up? So, I would say the biggest, most important thing with a woman golfer is to make sure that she has a good grip, because if she has a good grip, then her natural ability can take over and she can improve a lot better. Where I see a lot of women go wrong, and I talked to Cindy about this before, is that I teach a lot of beginner golfers. They have really bad grips. And so when you have a bad grip, your whole swing is dictated by how that club face is. So then their athleticism takes over and they try to correct it. Well, if you have a bad grip and you can't get that ball elevated, it doesn't matter how athletic you are. It's not going to work.
Right.
So I would really love to see more attention go to the basics. And that way, once those are learned, then someone's athletic ability can take over and they'll accelerate a lot faster, a man or a woman. The difference with a man and a woman is a woman can have a bad grip, and because she's not as strong, she won't get the ball elevated. A man can have a bad grip and get away with it because he's a lot stronger and it gets up in the air, so he might get better faster. And so he probably enjoys the game a little bit more because, he has a little bit more athleticism. So, I think that's the biggest difference with men and women is that strength factor. And so I think it could be corrected and, get the playing field level if we just could get all these women to get good grips.
Right. Let me ask you as well, Karen, if I can, what are some things that obviously you're familiar with what's taken place over the last 60 years and that in women's golf. But what are some things going forward that you would like to see different, sort of a direction, if you will? And I know this is kind of similar to what I asked you a few minutes ago with your vision that you and Deb are going to have in your part of it. But just in the LPGA in general, what are some things that you would like to see happen if you could sort of wave a magic wand to help really grow this game? And then I have another question that I want to ask specifically about getting women into golf on the teaching end of it as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a really good point. Well, again, we're really focusing on trying to get the LPGA, our status elevated in the community. Right now, it already is. I mean, our group is a fantastic group of women, and we're very respected in the community. But we really should be like the global leaders in teaching women because we are women. So I think that's one of the things that I would like to see improved. If you're a woman, I think I would love for you to pick a woman teacher first.
Sure.
And I would love to have a woman teacher in every club. That would be great because still there are so many clubs that don't have a woman teacher. So I think that there should always be a woman teacher on staff so that people have the choice, men and women have a choice to teach lessons from a man or a woman. So I'd like to see our membership grow. We have 1,700 members now. We just got a bunch of members from Korea, but I think we really need to increase our membership to get it up to the level as the PGA. I think the PGA has 28,000 members, so we have a little ways to go in that area.
So what do you think, and that's something too, I mean, there's a lot of women. Cindy and I have interviewed a number of different guests on the program on the business side of golf, meaning, they have a business, it might be a golf business, might not be, but they've recognized the advantages of having golf in their repertoire as a business tool. But the one thing that I really want to talk about, and I would really like to, at a later point, get into more depth on a different show, but I want to ask you this question that I sort of alluded to. How do we encourage more women to get involved in the teaching side, to bring those numbers up? Women are great teachers to begin with. I mean, that's why so many schools are filled with women teachers, because they just have that natural ability. But again, as you said, there's X number of, thousands of men teachers out there, and we understand why, because golf has predominantly been a male-dominated sport for years. But how do we encourage more women to get into the teaching side of golf?
Well, I think it will get better because the numbers of junior golfers coming up through the ranks are better. So a lot of those junior golfers will not be professional golfers, but they'll be still wanting to have a career in golf. So I think they will go towards teaching. So I think that will get better. And so, the only way we're going to get more women golf teachers is to get more women, or I'd say girl golfers, to play golf in high school and in college. And so then we'll get those to come towards the teaching side, when the time comes. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. And with this LPGA Girls Golf Club, I think we're doing it. We're on the rise. The numbers are increasing, and the idea for girls golf is not necessarily to make them competitive golfers. We just want to introduce them to the game and get a love for the game. We make it fun. When you come to a girls golf program, we play games. We show you how to swing the club, but there's a lot of camaraderie. So you get to meet another girl that plays golf. There's someone else that's like you. And then you just have a love for the game. You grow up with the game. Whether you play college golf or not, you're still a golfer. And, we have those women behind us. So, it's going to get better. Right now, there aren't that many women golfers. We need to get more women in business. But I guarantee you, over the next 25 years, with all these little girls growing up playing golf, playing college golf, there's going to be more women in business, and we're going to get more women teachers.
Yeah, there definitely seems to be. I guess the bug has sort of bitten, I think, with a lot of women and even young girls now, that golf has sort of been introduced to them through various different programs like you're talking about, and others. The U.S. Kids Golf, of course, has a great program that introduced some of these young kids to golf. And I think the more and more accessible that it's made for juniors to be even exposed to the game. I mean, they don't all have to be thrust into necessarily a great lengthy program, but I just think the exposure, and I would love to see more is somehow introduced, much like other sports are, into school curriculums, giving them the option, even if it's an extracurricular sport, a more option at the lower levels, the middle schools and even lower grade schools, so forth. Just the exposure, some way or somehow, and I think that would be great if both the PGA and the LPGA were able to assist financially in making that happen, because I know it's obviously expensive. It's much different than soccer and baseball and things like that. But if they would be able to work out a program to make it available at the elementary school levels as well, just to expose the kids, just to give them an opportunity to say, hey, here's golf, and this is something that you can have some fun with, and then sort of let nature take its course for those that are interested in gravitating. And Cindy, you work with a lot of juniors and that come into your clinics and things like that. What do they do is there things like that up in Buffalo right now in the school system?
Yeah, the first tee is inside the school now. So it is being, the kids are being exposed to the game. And then there's, the first tee summer programs, and we have programs all winter long. So for kids looking to do something different, they can find golf. And I believe it's growing. Don't we have 50,000 LPGA Girls Golf Club members, Karen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I run a LPGA Girls Golf Club in Buffalo. So it's being exposed. It's growing. And, again, it doesn't mean that you have to want to play on the tour.
Right.
Our daughter can't break 90. She's broken 90 once, but she's a producer at the Golf Channel. So you don't have to be great to be in the business or to know how to play. So it's a great game, and we need to make sure that we help it grow. And I'm sure that Devin and Karen are going to help that happen. And hopefully I get elected president of the Northeast, and I'm going to help them grow this whole thing.
Exactly, right, Cindy. We're rooting for you. That's great. The other thing that I think – go ahead.
No, please, go ahead.
No, I was just saying the other thing that I think that will help is, a lot of men students say, oh, how do I get my woman, my wife into golf? I'm like, well, get her a nanny, a babysitter, and a cleaning lady. Women are just really overwhelmed with so many things we work. So, it takes a lot of time. So I would really encourage golf courses to do sort of, like a 3-hole package, or come play golf for an hour, just so that you can get people out there. So if I have to commit to 4 or 5 hours for a whole round of golf, that's a lot of time taken out of my day that I need to be doing other things. So if someone said to me, well, let's go play 3 holes, or let's go for lunch and play for an hour, hit balls, I think that would really help encourage not just women golfers, but even, men golfers to come out and play a little bit more.
Absolutely. Great idea.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I think and that is, I think, one of the challenges to get more women involved. It's not that there may not necessarily be an interest, but it's just that there's so many other things pulling them away. Commitments like we talked about earlier with you. You've got plenty of commitments and family and other business commitments and things like that. It's not easy to juggle that around. And you're right. I think if they had a nanny and all these others, I think they would be able to break away and enjoy some of these things. It's not. Listen, that's. I used to say to my mother. My mother played golf over the years as well, and I, kudos to her for all the hard work that she did. I don't know anybody on this planet that, and I know every kid says this, but it worked as hard as my mother did, and just doing things. And my father wasn't even close by comparison, and he was a hard worker himself. That generation just was. But so I would love to see a lot of things change, and there's been a lot, and I know this happens, and I don't know if it's happening in your areas or not for either one of you, but I've even heard that some of the courses, there are courses out there that actually offer some sort of activities so that if women want to come and practice or play or what have you, that their kids can be involved in there's other little programs that can go on. And I think that would be something too. Some of the courses maybe could implement something so that women could bring their children there and have some sort of, I don't want to necessarily say a daycare because I know that's a big undertaking, but maybe that there could be some activities that would be available for the kids, on the range or on the putting greens or something like that, that the ladies can go and maybe, team up with their fellow, neighbors or what have you and get out and maybe play 9 holes and not have to worry about the kids and not have to pay for a babysitter. I don't know if that's something that's happening.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea. And gyms and fitness centers have really, they do that now.
Sure.
They have the daycare, and then everybody can go work out, and their kids having fun playing in daycare. So that is a great idea. That's something that I think golf courses are going to have to start to think about in the future.
Well, I've heard of a few. That's why I mentioned. I've heard of a few that are doing something similar. They've implemented into their programming, and I'm going to run out today and patent that idea because somebody's going to make a lot of money, I'm sure, off it.
Exactly.
But you're right.
I mean, yeah, right.
But and Cindy, I'm sure you'd agree. I mean, with the fitness side of things, I mean, you go to a lot of health clubs now. They recognize the importance of wanting to attract women into their clubs, and it's not always easy if they've got 2 or 3 little ones at home. So they've implemented, many of them have implemented some sort of a program that they can bring their kids and the kids have something to do and mom can go and work out. So I think, that would be something great. And I sort of scratch my head wondering why the golf industry really hasn't thought of that, or maybe they have, and it's just, like everything else, it sometimes takes time to implement. But I think that would be a great thing, and that would help a lot of women free up some time to be able to go, even if it was only an hour a day.
Absolutely.
And it would be great for the spirit and mind, too, to get away from your kids for an hour, and then everyone would be a lot happier.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that. I agree wholeheartedly with that. Karen, we only have just a moment here, and I just wanted to give you a quick moment to. Obviously, we wanted to focus a little bit on your VP-ship, if you will. But I know you also have cardio golf and other things going on. So just sort of give us a quick rundown of some of the other things that you're doing and how, if people are interested in getting in touch with working with you, how they can do that.
Yes. I offer a program. It's called Cardio Golf, and you can find it at cardiogolf.com. And what it is you need to exercise anyway. I mean, you're living under a rock if you don't know that exercise is part of maintaining and preventing disease. So why not practice your golf at the same time? So it's a great little program. I teach it at my club here at Trump National Charlotte. We get in here. We do a golf-specific warm-up. We do go through a battery of exercises to help your rotation, to help you with, take your muscles through full range of motion. And then I do a battery of exercises to help you with your golf swing. So you're getting exercise and you're working on your swing at the same time. My new venture is actually your golf wellness room. It's an online platform where I'm actually going to implement more programs to help people with the whole golf lifestyle. If you're a golfer and you want to improve your game, exercise at the same time. So we're going to offer programs to help you with your exercise. Sleep is an important part of being a good golfer. You have to have a good night's sleep in order to perform at your best. So we have programs to help you with your sleep, your nutrition, even with the mental side of the game, and even with your finances. So in your wellness room, it's yourwellnessroom.com, you will find a variety of programs just to help you kind of manage your life. And when your life is on track, then you have time freed up to go do the things that you like to do, like play golf. So, I've been involved with that a few months, and that's really taking off.
Well, fantastic. Karen, we want to thank, Cindy and I want to thank you for joining us today, and congratulations again to both you and to Deb. And we know you guys are got some great ideas for the new year. And when do you actually take it? Right at the beginning of the new year, or when do you actually you guys sort of?
I believe at sort of the PGA show is the kickoff for us as our reign as president and vice president. So that will be our coming out party, as you say.
and that actually is 2 years, right? You go to 2018?
Right, 2018.
Yeah.
So we'll try to get in there and do as much as possible.
Well, perfect. Well, again,
congratulations.
Karen, congratulations,
yes,
and thank you
so much. Yeah. Yeah,
thank
so
you
thanks
very much
for having me on, and I just want to thank Cindy especially. She really helps support us, and she's one of my favorite people, and so I love to do and be involved with anything that Cindy Miller is doing.
Yeah, Cindy's.
Thank you. That's awful nice of you.
Cindy is definitely great. There's no doubt. Anything that Cindy puts her hands on always comes out blooming with like roses, and she's just great. Very hard work. I've said this many times on the show, and I'll end the show like this. She's, in my opinion, one of the hardest working women in golf today, and just that's why so many people love her. So Cindy, thank you for all of the things that you do as well, and that's certainly a testament to have Karen pay homage, if you will, to you for all the hard work that you do. And on that note, Karen, thank you again, and we would love to have you come back anytime you want if you've got some things. And once you get into your new role there a little bit later in the new year, we'd love to have you come back and maybe talk a little bit about some of the things that you and Deb have been working on or working towards for ladies golf.
Great. I look forward to it.
All right.
Thanks. Have a great day.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. That was our special guest, Karen Palacios-Jansen. And on behalf of Cindy Miller and I, we want to take this opportunity to thank all of our listeners around the world for tuning in each and every week. And we appreciate all of the guests that come on the program. And you can catch us next Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern right here on Blog Talk Radio's Women of Golf. Thanks, and God bless everybody. And Cindy, you have a great day as well.
Thanks, Ted. You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.